we're actually using film. We're using film cameras. It would cost hundreds, if not millions of dollars a day to try to create something, and it limited the amount of people that wanted to be able to tell their story. Now, because of advancements of technology, we're seeing incredible storytellers, creatives, and artists alike being able to get feature film deals by shooting something on their iPhone for less than $100,000 over 30 days. That's a very beautiful thing because it's allowing people to express that human creativity. We're going to get more noise from that naturally. The AI tools that we're investing in, they're tools. They're storytelling tools the same way that there's lights and cameras and scripts and costumes. And if you don't have the experience, if you don't have the taste, or you don't have the knowledge how to properly utilize that, you will get filtered out in the noise category very, very quickly.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Busy man today. But we're nearly at the end. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Georgina Godwin. As you heard, I'm presenter of Visionary, which is Here East podcast. And I do encourage you to have a listen, subscribe for free. You'll hear a remarkable array of creatives and visionaries speaking on the podcast. So we're talking about, this session is navigating the AI Wild West. So we're looking at how emerging technologies are reshaping creative production, distribution, and audience experience across film, television, music, and design. Tools like virtual production and generative AI are accelerating change at remarkable speed. Now, the scale of this shift is already clear. In the UK, around 14,000 creative businesses are actively working with emerging technologies, supporting a workforce of over 350,000 professionals. And crucially, for today's discussion, London sits at the centre of this transformation. It's home to 78% of the UK's AI and data-driven create-tech companies. So under London's current growth plan, the creative and experience economies are recognised as key drivers of future economic growth. So the real question for us is, how do we use these tools to expand what's possible for artists rather than replacing them? And what does London need to do now to remain the world's leading creative capital? So joining me to explore this are three leaders working directly with these technologies. So Justin Diener, just here, is founder of Synapse Virtual Production. He's flown in from LA today. Thank you. It's a studio developing immersive media and AI tools that change how audiences engage with digital content. Usha Raghavachari is Innovation Director at Ford. She leads digital transformation and the integration of AI, real-time data, and connected systems into global products and experiences. Now, it sounds a little bit complicated, and the first time I heard it, I was really confused. But we have done a whole episode of Visionary about it. And by the end of it, I understood. And perhaps you'll just explain it for us a little in a moment. And finally, Allan Rankin, who's co-founder of Target 3D. That's a studio specializing in tracking human movement to build digital realities, working on everything from video game development and films to live interactive entertainment. So welcome to all of you. And Allan, I think you're going to actually give us a demonstration of what you do, but just looking past the hype, where do you think that AI is really enhancing creativity right now?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us today. AI has been injecting itself into motion capture. We do motion capture systems, which are perimeter cameras, and you have a person in a suit, which is tracked to then use their movements to reanimate another character, an avatar. And nowadays, AI machine learning tools can do that without needing markers and suits. So there's an advance there in terms of how the technology works. It's enhanced how we do things in terms of the post-production. So the tools which AI enables us to do the post-production a lot quicker. We can do some post-production processes. When you do any kind of motion capture, there are errors in the data. There may be some imperfections in the way the system might see how a hand or a face moves. And quite often we have a post-production animator who'd manually retouch up where the imperfections are. But now we're using AI tools which can be trained to do that whole process much more quickly. So we'll do some data cleanup. The operator will then put it through an AI tool, which will then do the rest of it for you in a really good way. So it's disrupting us in that respect. The demonstration you mentioned is really showing how some of these AI tools are helping us really try and understand what things might look like as we go into the production process. So a quick video which we produced to show this, I kind of preempt it by saying that previously I would have had an animator create several characters. We'd put someone in a suit, they would do a motion, and then we'd have that same animator applying that data onto these several characters to put together to then show what is possible. But working with a friend who used an AI tool, he very quickly was able to use that same capture data, which we'll see at the start, and very quickly reapply that data onto many characters within a couple of hours, which means we've been able to do a lot of work really quickly using AI tools. Now, this has some limitations because we'll look at it from one 2D angle. It's not 3D data, which is what we want motion capture for. So these are several places where the AI tools are enhancing post-production cleanup, but also enhancing pre-visualization really quickly.
Can we have a look?
Yeah, I mean, so here's Anna. That is the real person doing the motion. You can see this is the skeletal out form of what the camera can see in terms of how she moves, and crucially her fingers as well here, which is really also a difficult thing to do. And now when we start to apply the beauty of AI tools, this is a virtual character. And then we'll see another virtual character. So in one process, that same data is being reanimated several times, which would have taken quite a lot of time and work for someone to create that virtual character to reanimate it several times. And then there's a quick illustration here, which Simon graciously did for us, which was showing actually, I just want to create this character and put it through the pipeline. What's that going to look like? So this shows you the speed and the quality of what you're getting from AI, which is really disrupting what we're doing.
So, I mean, is it the Wild West then? I mean, because that in the wrong hands could be incredibly dangerous.
I still think you need domain expertise to understand what they're doing and using with these tools. Yes, someone could use a generative prompt to say, make the performer do X, Y, and Z, but may meander for quite a long time to try and get it right. If you have people who've got domain expertise, motion capture experts per se, who are working with these tools, then they're able to wield some semblance of control of it to get a really good outcome. You still need domain expertise to get a high quality outcome. I suppose anyone could do stuff for nefarious means, and it's really difficult to control that. Yeah, there are lots of AI tools where you can use generative prompts to get outcomes which might be not so, welcome, shall we say. But the quality, you still need someone with domain expertise.
Yeah. So Usha, your job, I'm going to call it human-centered.
Yeah.
But of course, there's a lot of tech involved in it.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us about it, but in very simple language, perhaps?
Sure. What do? We find problems and we solve them. That's about as simple as it gets. So I'd say most creative people would say that. So we've been on quite a journey at Ford, and we established a human-centered design team globally about 7 years ago. And I came back from Shanghai, back home to London. And a lot of that work we still do, actually, even with AI and new technology, is ethnographic research, observational research, because quite often when you are observing humans and talking to humans, all of us in the room, a lot of what is unsaid is actually as interesting and inspiring for us. A lot of what we see and not necessarily what you tell me is great food and inspiration for the process. So that we still do. And I can't imagine anytime in the near future that we would stop doing that. But what we have changed in the process is we are augmenting that process with a huge amount of connected vehicle data. That's like pouring in into the company. We used to have I would say it was a data puddle, and then it became a pond, and now it's a massive ocean of signals that we're receiving from vehicles. That not only do we then have that qualitative human learning for inspiration, we also have actual data at a micro level of how you're using your vehicle and where your vehicle is working and not working, so we're better able to anticipate and solve other problems. The real magic, though, is bringing those two things together, which is what we're starting to do.
So who actually holds ownership of this if it's shared between technology and humans?
Owns the creative process?
Yeah. Or even the IP?
So that's a great question. I think if I think about how we're using AI, very, very similarly, many of the tools that we're using are speeding up a lot of our existing processes. So if you think very simply about human-centered design, we do a lot of discovery. So we're looking for inspiration. We do a lot of research. All of that can be accelerated. We're a massive global company with loads of institutional knowledge that historically has been really hard for us to know all the different projects that are happening and all the things that have already occurred. This technology now allows us to basically have what's the best way to describe, like a company brain that you can interact with using natural language. It's really easy. I could have one for me and all the interactions and everything that I have done. And so AI is very much a complement and a thought partner. Downside is that generative AI certainly today is very positive. So whatever I ask, it tells me I'm brilliant in every way and that my ideas are brilliant. Creative people need provocation and critique. So you have to learn how to ensure that you're getting a critical eye as well. But it's speeding things up tremendously for us. But it's not, what it doesn't do though, it doesn't have the same ability to create the empathy that we have that I was describing. It also, at least today, doesn't do what I do in the shower in the morning. Don't have that picture in your head, but we're all little magpies. So when I am thinking of a problem, I'm like poking at it all the time. And then I might listen to a podcast on the way into the office. I might observe someone doing something that, lights me up a little bit. I'll read a report. But actually what I do in the shower is my brain is putting all of those different pieces together. And then I have a little aha moment. We all think they happen in a structured, creative brainstorming workshop. Of course they don't. They happen in those moments when actually your brain is just synthesizing and processing information and it smashes all those different pieces together. So I haven't yet encountered a piece of technology that is as good as our creative brain in doing that. So certainly helping, speeding things up. The other area also are just new digital tools. So many tools that we're using for prototyping and creating, again, that is giving us incredible leaps in speed. But it probably would come as a surprise for you to know that we still make physical clay models for the design of our vehicles. We do a lot of prototyping by hand. We use cardboard and paper and again, because there's something in the act of making that enables us as humans to think about and critique and evolve the solution that we're creating.
Yeah.
And it's hard for AI to do that. It can speed up other bits of the process, but that would be another area where I think our humans are still a little bit better, a little bit stronger. Yeah.
We are going to come back to you in the shower.
Yeah.
That thought. Justin, I wonder if AI is making creativity more more democratic, or is there just now overwhelming noise?
Yeah, sure. Certainly, we're seeing AI allowing for a democratization across the media, entertainment, across all sectors. That's nothing new with technology. I was sharing a story earlier when I first got into film production 20 years ago. We were actually using film. We were using film cameras. It would cost hundreds, if not millions of dollars a day to try to create something, and it limited the amount of people that wanted to be able to tell their story. Now, because of advancements of technology, we're seeing incredible storytellers, creatives, and artists alike being able to get feature film deals by shooting something on their iPhone for less than $100,000 over 30 days. That's a very beautiful thing because it's allowing people to express that human creativity. There's a cost, there's a risk with it. Just like with anything else, the flip side of that coin is that there's a lot more people that now have access to tools that allow to tell stories. And to your earlier point, yeah, there could be some ugly versions of that, but more importantly, or to answer your question more directly, we're going to get more noise from that naturally. The good news is that at least today and tomorrow, we should be considering the AI tools that we're investing in as just that. They're tools. They're storytelling tools, the same way that there's lights and cameras and scripts and costumes. And if you don't have the experience, if you don't have the taste, or you don't have the knowledge on how to properly utilize that, you will get filtered out in the noise category very, very quickly. Some people are going to get lucky and they're going to put in the right prompt and they might make something interesting, but they will not be able to continue on with a level of quality and consistency to allow that to be their profession, to allow them to continue to produce meaningful media, stories, creativity of any kind, because they don't understand the why behind it. Yeah. And I think we're already seeing that. A lot of the AI that has emerged out onto the scene, in fairness to the creators, it's still relatively early days, but it's very short form. It's gag. You get to see, Keanu Reeves and Tom Cruise beating each other up on a roof. That doesn't look great, but it's compelling enough to be able to watch for 2 minutes, and it's cool because it's the first time that you got to see that. When we're seeing more films emerging at Cannes or within our respective markets about real content creation, about true productions where people want to see it, people are going to pay to see it, people are going to invest in it, I think we're going to continue to see diminishing returns of any level of success of those creating that don't have an artistic background, a creative background, or a filmmaker's background.
Tell us how you utilize that then within your company. Synapse, as you would say, Synapse, as we pronounce it.
Yes. Well, so virtual production, it's an umbrella term. It can be confusing, but virtual production for my company is very large LED walls that use 3D camera tracking, real-time game engines, as well as media players. Essentially, in many ways, we're replacing locations, green screen, blue screen, and then visual effects from traditional means. What that allows for, and I'm in the same business as you, right? Identifying problems and solving them.
Right.
The problem that we had to solve for was that the global box office and media creation was tanking. It was changing dramatically. We were seeing that the audience was changing. The way that media was being digested was shifting rapidly. Half the budget, twice the deliverables, faster, don't compromise quality. Right. And virtual production allows for a lot of that. You're in a controlled setting. You can go through multiple locations very quickly. You can iterate what was a several month with several hundred people creating visual effects that would be replaced in post or go up on the wall, to now having these tools and being able to create bespoke tools to speed up and improve this process. What's critical to us, and what I urge everyone in the audience to consider, is that we should not embrace these tools at the same time that we forego the humans involved in the human creativity standpoint. And what I mean by that is, we're invested in filmmakers, we're invested in performers. We have a studio where now you can work faster and often cheaper to create that high quality content, but it's because we can use AI to create a background, or we can use AI to create a 3D environment that can be used. We're still getting actors in front of cameras. We're still hiring hundreds of people behind the camera to be able to create this very compelling content, women and men alike of the cast and crew, to do what we've been doing in film production for the past 100 years. But by utilizing these tools, we can stay competitive with the demands of the marketplace, which is to do it faster, cheaper, and create more all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Allan, I wonder what you think people still get wrong about AI. What's a common misapprehension?
I think there's a misunderstanding that it can do everything, that it's easy to use. There's one thing playing around with some of these tools and getting something out and thinking, oh, I can just do that, and then I'll be able to be a Steven Spielberg or something.
No?
Well, no, and also, I think there's just too much expectation of it. People don't understand that there's also, if you don't have good expertise in using these AI tools, you get lack of consistency. And you can spend a lot of time going down a rabbit hole trying to make something work when you could have gone to a domain expert to use the tools correctly. So I think there's a misunderstanding about how much you can get out of it, although it's getting better all the time.
Yeah. So, but that brings it back down to who's the domain expert and can you trust them? And so, in this Wild West, or this potential Wild West, who's the sheriff and who's flinging open the saloon doors? How do you build trust in AI?
Yeah, it's I think it's a really difficult question to answer. So I think as a brand like Ford is very trusted. People trust us to put their kids in the back of their vehicles and to be safe. And so it's I feel like the onus is on companies to set their own guardrails, if you like. And quite often I'm observing that we're doing more than governments are doing right now because it's so important for our reputation. And so those controls are in place internally within our company in terms of how we create, what we create, how we safeguard data and privacy. How do we embed things that prevent bad actors, taking over our vehicles and doing nefarious things. I'd love to see more actually coming the other way. I'd love to see industry consortia and governments actually taking a stand. I think what I see right now is many regulators often are not moving as quickly as the tech industry is, and as we feel as a large multinational company, we have to. So yeah, I'd love more inbound actually, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So I think it feels like it's on us, and maybe that's why it feels like it's a bit of the Wild West, because I don't know that everyone is doing, going through the same level of rigor that large organizations like Ford.
Well, the governments can't, right? They can't move that fast.
Exactly.
And you touch on some incredible points. If it's of interest to people in the audience, there was a fabulous article written, AI 2027, that expands on that train of thought.
I mean, I was just, speaking to Tim Wu a couple of days ago, who wrote a book, I think it's called Extraction, and he was a tech advisor to both Obama and Biden. And he was talking about just how very difficult it is, but how once the tech companies are now behaving like nation states, and that they have the control, they can impose the censorship. If you look at Meta and what's happened to the author Sarah Wynne Williams, for instance, the so-called Meta whistleblower, and how much control they have. How do you possibly stop that, Allan?
It's terrifying.
Yes, Allan. How are you going to stop that?
Yeah. Come on, Allan.
I think it's terrifying because I think also by utilizing these cloud-based tools, signing up to the subscriptions, you almost have you're tied to them. What we do as a company is we sell motion capture technologies. People buy them for universities, engineering companies, they get the tools, they have ownership of them, they can do their captures in the middle of the night or in the daytime. They don't need an internet connection. And I think what's quite risky is with that control of the tools through these big companies, if you fall foul of their idea of what is right to be created, they can cut you off. And so your ability to create is then subject to your access to their systems. So I think that's a very kind of dangerous territory where we're then saying that you need to be tied to some kind of money-making model for them to be able to get access. So that's obviously a concerning thing, as powerful as they are. And also we don't really understand how much they're pumping into the establishment of data centers, how much energy they're using, how much water they're using. We don't really have a good handle on the impact they're making in the environment. So, and probably asking them about that will probably get a fairly inaccurate AI answer, maybe. So those things are the concerning elements for me.
I do worry about inequality, though. So if you think about, who has access to these tools and who has access to this technology, but also at the moment, everything is free and it's lovely, and, organizations and maybe creators who are requiring that higher level of, pro tool are paying for it. But very soon you can imagine everything is going to, they have to recoup their investments. And already we're seeing that only certain parts of the population have access. And what is that going to mean in the future? We're going to have this huge difference of ability to learn all these new things and access those roles and be successful. So that worries me actually a great deal more. It's not that, these populations are not interested. They're super interested. But how do we allow for that kind of equity of outcome?
So are we saying then that the potential problem here is the platform and not the tool, or the platform owner and not the tool?
I think it's the scale of those organizations, right? There's so few who have so much in those platforms today. Listen, large organizations have always had a disproportionate impact on the world. Let's be honest. When we go and set up a manufacturing plant in, South Africa, we're building roads and we're creating jobs and we're, building infrastructure to support the supply chain and all of those things.
Yeah.
All that's happening now is that a lot of that is digitally happening. But it's down to us, I guess, individuals and consumers, but also for other large organizations to balance the weight of the tech companies and the influence that they not only have today, but I would say more concerning for me is the potential influence and impact they're going to have in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, what would you say to a young person? How should they future-proof themselves for a new era that's driven by technology? How can they work creatively with AI?
I would suggest that they plan to be nimble, they expect change, they embrace adversity and uncertainty, and explore and experiment with the resources that they have available to them.
We're just coming to the end, so there is one last question. Do you sing in the shower?
I actually was in the school choir, Georgina, for 7 years. And yes, I sing in the shower, in the car. Some of my team are in the room. I sing in the office. Apparently, I'm not aware of doing it.
So the last question for all of you, I need your top shower song. Top shower song?
Oh, gosh. I clearly don't sing in the shower.
You never sing in the shower?
No.
Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen.
Oh, my goodness.
That's
my go-to karaoke song. Yep.
And Justin?
Justin?
Jeez, I don't know. My wife's in the audience. Do you hear me Probably an Eminem song.
Well, on that, I think that we should probably exit to music that we make ourselves. Thank you for a very practical look at where these tools are taking us. And it's clear that navigating these technologies does require a balance between technical capability and human oversight, and possibly musical talent too. Now, listen, I'm aware that you didn't get a chance to ask any questions of the panel, but that's okay. I think Mike's going to tell you a little bit more about this in a moment. But there's fabulous entertaining and networking going on now. So do grab them individually and ask them any of your questions. Thank you all so much for coming, and thank you to the panel.
Thank you.